Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Sargent. This is a 60-34 rim cylinder is what it is. So you got a 60 and you got a 34, you got a 97, you got a 32D. We'll talk about what all that means. The bottom line is it's a rim cylinder. There's nothing extremely special about the fact that it's a rim cylinder. It happens to be large format. So in the world of interchangeable core, you have small format and then large format. And then under large format is, of course, included Schlage's full-size interchangeable core. So it's either best or compatible, or it's everyone else. And it's only best and the clones of best, Falcon, Arrow, countless other people. And then it's large format, under which is obviously Sargent and Corbin and ASA and Yale and Schlage and everybody else, Multi-Lock, anyone who makes an interchangeable core that's not best or best compatible. Okay, so this is Sargent's interchangeable core for their modern platform of interchangeable cores. Okay, and again, typical rim cylinder. Tailpiece, this is oriented, this is going to be oriented horizontally. Has a retaining C-clip that's here. This client bought this because somehow their tailpiece broke. I don't know exactly how. They may have cut it too short when they were installing it. This is used on a piece of detention hardware. It's for a military base way out west, in the just west of the United States. About far as west as you can go. And they're using this on detention hardware, and they needed a replacement rim cylinder. So let's talk about where you would use rim cylinders in general. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. A rim cylinder is a very generic piece of hardware that is used in lots of different applications to have key control over something, whether it be an alarm bypass, in an exit alarm, or perhaps would be installed in exit device trim, or it's used in a night latch. And a night latch function of a rim lock is where you would use a rim cylinder. And the word rim comes from the fact that those locks and those cylinders, they're installed in the perimeter of the door, or on the outside edge of the door, is where you'll see a rim cylinder. But it's a very generic piece of equipment that's used in lots of applications. Like I had said earlier, you know, access to rim exit devices, either through trim or a cylinder only with a pull handle. And then you can have countless pieces of equipment that are alarm bypasses. You've got an alarm module installed on the door. You've got a magnetic strike on the jamb. You want some way to be able to bypass that so that you can exit without setting off the alarm. Rim cylinders are used for that, and many other countless applications. But generally rim-mounted, surface-mounted slam locks or deadbolts, you'll use rim cylinders. So the 60 in the part number is going to be a reference to the plastic construction core that is included with these. And the reason that you'll get this with your installation when you order a rim cylinder is so that you can install the hardware and then test it and make sure it works. Because the concept of interchangeable core is such that the cores are installed in their housings, and this is really a rim cylinder housing because it doesn't include a core. The interchangeable cores are installed into their housings, whether they be the key and lever, or it be a mortise cylinder housing, or a rim cylinder housing, or a key and knob, or a knob trim, whatever it might be. You want to be able to install this and test the hardware to make sure the hardware works, because the person installing this rim cylinder may never ever see that permanent core that gets installed. That could, and very likely is, someone else, like the owner. You're the person who works for the contractor who's doing the physical installation of the hardware. Your job is to make sure the exit device works. Okay, and there you go, or whatever you're installing. Someone else will then come by with the cores and the control keys and install all the cylinders. Until that point, this black plastic construction core is what's installed. Okay, that's how that is. Okay. Now, this being a rim cylinder, it's going to, let's back up. This is a 60 because it's large format. It's a 34 because it's a rim cylinder. Okay. The 97 is the trim ring, the compression trim ring that comes with this, or cylinder collar would be the right way to call this. So you could be trimming it off like this. And that spring is there so that you can install the cylinder down to the face of the door and have the ring tight on the face of the door. Okay? That ring will keep it down tight. Being a rim cylinder, it's going to include its mounting plate and its 2 breakaway screws. These screws are an overall length of about 2 3/16. The body itself is about 1 1/4 inches. So, you know, if you needed to install this down to a 3-inch thick door, it'd be no problem. You're going to have to carefully cut these screws down every time, almost every time, because you're dealing with standard door thicknesses. And then, of course, the tailpiece has these breaks in it. You're not going to just put pliers on there and try to snap that off. You're going to want to very carefully cut that to the proper length without bending this at all, because that tailpiece needs to be completely laser beam straight as it rotates. If it's going in an elliptical path because you've bent the tailpiece in the process of cutting it, your hardware won't work so well. And that is everything that's in the package. The 32D just means the face of this, or what is called the scalp plate, a very thin piece of architectural metal, is 2 things. It's stainless steel base material, and it's in a brushed finish. Let's switch to the screen view and let's take a closer look at all the supporting information. If you've not hit subscribe yet, we would very much appreciate if you did, and hopefully you're enjoying this video. Now, let's get back to it. Okay, here's the item that we are working on. Let's dissect the part number. So it's a 60. We know that's large format plastic construction core. 34 is the rim. There is a 97 cylinder collar that's there. I asked for 26D in the part number, and they clearly supplied 32D. No harm, no foul. And I specified the door thickness because I wanted a standard tailpiece, because they do make different length tailpieces. They do have, sometimes those tailpieces are called connecting bars. I would call it, okay. We have a little bit of a, well, I missed it on 2 accounts. I missed it 2 times. We've got that misspelling error fixed up now, tailpiece. And there you go. So I have some photographs. Let's look at it. There's the box. There's the contents. Plastic core installed. The lobes on interchangeable core, when it's large format, are not the same size, whereas small format they are. That's an easy way to tell. If you've got the top lobe, I can't say always, because medical might be the same size lobe. They're just both larger. Don't quote me on that. If the lobes are the same size, it's very likely that you're looking at small format. There's the connecting bar and the driver assembly that it's connected to, which we can see here. These 2 roll pins will stick in the back of the plastic construction core. Trim ring, mounting plate, mounting screws. That's the 97 part of the part number. I also have a cut sheet. Let's take a look at that. Not too terribly much to see here, but let's dive into it. So we know we've got the 60. Disposable plastic core. During the construction phase in non-restricted areas, disposable plastic cores can be used, eliminating the use and distribution of actual keys. That's certainly true. You can certainly use that to access areas that don't need to be secured. However, just because you've installed the mortise cylinder housing onto the mortise lock, you don't know if you've got it installed correctly until you test the operation of the lock, and the plastic construction cores are used for that purpose. On page 2 is where we get into the 34 reference. This is a 34 interchangeable core. Rim cylinder housing is what it is. That 73 prefix tells us something unrelated about it. But indicating 60 definitely tells the factory what you want. It's clearly going to be Sargent's large format core. Now there is a link below this video, as seen here, to the manufacturer's page. And when you click on that, you'll be able to pull up not only all of the Sargent items we sell by means of this horizontal navigation as seen here, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the current full product catalog. And I would recommend taking a look at that because it will allow you to review, obviously, everything Sargent related. Right in the beginning section are indeed cylinders and components. So if you're looking for cylinder related items from Sargent, this is where your search will begin. I note that Sargent is generally very comprehensive in terms of how much information is in their catalog. There are not many instances when I need to reach out to them and ask, but if you can't find the information, just know reaching out to them is not a failing on your part. There's just information you need to know that's not here. I recently had a technical question that could not be answered out of the catalog. One of their access control lock sets, whether or not it could accept a 2 3/8 latch bolt from their 10 line series, or maybe it was 11 line, and that had to get escalated to them because that section of their catalog indicated only 2 3/4, but the chassis was either a 10 or 11 line. So there should be no reason that 2 3/8 or the 3 3/4 or the 5-inch latch bolt wouldn't work. But we needed to get that in writing from them because we were about to order, a dozen $3,000 locks. And it was premised on the fact that 2 3/8 was going to be compatible. Now, this 432 RC, this is, and I mention it because it's related, this is a tool that is used to install, it does two things. This is for large format, and they also have a tool for small format. This allows you to install mortise cylinder housings, and then again, test the operation of that mortise lock, of that key switch, of that exit device. So when it's installed in this, when this half is installed into the cylinder housing as is shown, that's what allows you to get a better handle on the tool itself that will then allow you to turn that housing clockwise or counterclockwise should you need to remove it. You then remove the tool and stick this end in, and then you can test the operation to make sure that the driver is throwing the cam and that the lock works correctly. Pretty fascinating walk into the world of Sargent cylinders. You will hopefully pretty quickly appreciate the fact that they are a very sophisticated manufacturer of locking hardware. They have been in business since the second half of the 19th century. Fun fact, the gentleman who started the Sargent company, his name is Sargent, is responsible for even today, the deep density of people in that part of Connecticut, where the factory was originally located, of having Italian descent. Mr. Sargent went to Italy to find additional workers, and the Italians were known for phenomenal skill sets. So he recruited many, many Italians and brought them over, and they worked in the Sargent factory. That kind of background information you can find in locksmithing books. Here is a typical key structure, what would be called a multiplex structure. The LA is the standard keyway. All the 9 that are down here are sections available in cylinder plugs. These are all key blanks. This would be called a multi-section, and it exists for a couple of very important reasons. One probably far more so than the other, but nonetheless for very important reasons. Anyway, you scroll through here, and it's a proper education on cylinders and keying to a certain extent. Speaking of that full-line catalog, I would also like to draw your attention to this area of the manufacturer's page, because in this area I have a dozen or so full-line catalogs. We've got one from 1877, 1901, 1922, and so on. So if you want to see what Sargent was making in 1888. Well, there's your catalog. You can go ahead and fire that up. I won't pause this because it's such a large scanned document that it'll take a minute to load. But if you wanted to take a trip down the path of historical hardware manufacturing in the United States, for Sargent, for Yale, for Corbin, for Schlage, I've got really good old catalogs. Let's wrap up this video on camera. If you've made it this far into this video, you must be determined to see it through to the end, and we appreciate your hanging in there with us and watching this entire video. It means a lot. It takes a lot of work to create these videos in the sense that, it's time taken away from doing other things. However, the advantage for me personally of creating these videos is the fact that it does allow myself to either learn about something new, to reacquaint myself with something, or to reinforce what I believe that I already know. Any comments that you might leave down below would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. I can't imagine there's much left to say that I've not said about the Sargent large format rim cylinder housing, but if there is something I've left out, please feel free to reach out. Obviously, this is available in all of the typical finishes that Sargent will supply locks in. Your brasses, your bronze, your chromes, satin, polished, oil rub, antique, powder-coated finishes, certainly black, probably others, because Sargent is under the ASA Abloy umbrella, and Sargent's sister companies, who would be Yale and Corbin and Medico and Pemco and Rockwood and many others, Adams Wright, they're offering powder coating in different colors, not only black. Black is a very popular color today. The year is 2021. It's been popular for 4 or 5 years. But historically, if you were to look at catalogs from 100 years ago, black was likely the most common finish that you'd end up seeing. So it's come back in terms of popularity. Speaking over the last 50 years or so, the 70s was a lot of antique brass or etched bronze. The 80s, of course, were polished brass, leading into satin chrome, late 80s, early 90s. Then satin nickel was hot on the heels. Then in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, then it was all oil rub bronze, and then derivatives of oil rub bronze like Venetian bronze. 2000s, 2010s, to the mid, 2010s, black really comes into play. I don't know what will be next, but some other finish will come in and will be very popular. I imagine black will be popular for quite some time. Any questions on this or any other Sargent product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.